Hello, everybody. Coach Kevin here. Today, moment in soccer, defending, and the areas defending third. So, topic of today's session is denying the switch of play, and more specifically, we're going to have a 2v2 to 4v4 kind of setup for this session. First things first, a little bit more about me. My name is Coach Kevin. I'm connected to the Point Knights. I coach two teams. Boys side I have a CTL, Club Technical Lead, DOC, Director of Coaching license. I'm also a licensed coach, and I've done some work in a professional environment as well as a video analyst, coach, analyst. I have my resume right here. If you are looking to get this template from me, just feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to send it to you. I'll also include it in the link into this description below, but tells you a little bit about me. Also part of European Association of Scouts. I have my UEFA license as well, and it tells you, where I've been, what I've done, who I've worked for, who I have scouted, etc. So feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in this template. I will be happy to forward it to you. So, topic of today's session, obviously preventing the switch and trying to understand defending principle of preventing the switch of play. Switching a point of attack obviously is an essential tactical skill in attacking moment, but also an essential tactical skill in defending moment to try and prevent or deny the switch. So in this case, we're trying to deny the opponent access to the weak side or switch to point of attack. You want to overload your strong side, so you want to keep them on one side. So you want to bring numbers, defenders, and numbers around the ball. And if you cannot do that, you try to force the play or predict the play to allow for those defending interceptions and challenges. Some player actions that we're looking for, obviously the angle of the press from the primary players, cover and balance from the secondary players, where you try to support your first defender to cut off any passing lanes forward and or sideways and back to anticipate those switches on the point of attack. Obviously, you try to look for your distance between players, so your compactness, trying to reduce space for the opponent to play that ball through. And so you're looking to limit the spacing between your defenders to win the ball back. And obviously, when to press, how to press, who to press, so the intelligent pressing and the pressing triggers. We're gonna try and have some coaching moments and coaching scenarios and stop and freezes demos in a 3v3 to 4v4 game. You can also start at a 2v2 depending on what kind of numbers you have. So the whole idea is to try and simulate the real game, tactical game scenario or defensive situations. Um, I had some dimensions here. Obviously, we're defending and defending third. So if you have the field space available, try to have a space or area specifically tailored to your topic as well. I mentioned a 3v3, 4v4. You could add target players on the outside to act as some target players to potential switch the options, switch the point of attack. But if you have a 3v3 situation, your wingers are kind of there already. You can also try to increase the speed of play for the attackers by limiting their touches and basically give them certain incentives to switch the play. So here are the techniques in this format. Obviously, I mentioned the angle of the press where you try to isolate and lock the ball on one side. So you want to make sure that you do not have a pass back or sideways to be able to switch the point of attack. So your first defender presses, then you have your supporting defenders that uh, are covering. So you have your pressure cover balance. And then you try to bring numbers around the ball to try and predict the ball or try to challenge the ball. You want to cut off the opposite side, so your weaker fullback in this case, make sure that they're on their toes to anticipate the switching, or if the switch or the point of attack is actually there, if it's a possibility that you want to cut off that opposite side as well. The pressing triggers, if it's a bad pass, is if it's a bouncy ball, if the pass is played too slowly, uh, if it has the wrong direction, etc. So communication is also key. Who's the leader in the back, who's the leader in midfield to actually initiate the press forward. So in essence, the angle of the press for the first defenders. You try to overload, so those are your secondary defenders, supporting defenders, so you pressure, cover, balance people. You want to try and block the lanes to not give the opportunity to the attackers to switch a point of attack, and obviously not the angle of the press, but also the timing of the press. Who's stepping out? When are they stepping out? Is it with the correct pace and acceleration, etc.? I include a training session plan as well for this one. It gives you a plan for 70 to 90 minutes. Mentioned the bumpers or the target players on the outside. So it's a small sided game. We try to master, how to prevent the switch of play to give you some control defensively. So as a coach, you have certain scenarios, intervention moments in mind before your session starts. You can do a stop and freeze where you see, your defender's not doing what you're looking for them to do as a player action. So you can pause the game when the attacker looks to switch the play, and then you can ask defenders where's the next pass going. So they can adjust their positioning, their speed, angle, timing, distance, body shape, etc. You can do a demo. So you want to show the defenders how to execute a bent run. So that's the angle of the pressing. And you can also focus on the second defender to try and read the play. Which way is the first defender pressing? Are they forcing them outside, inside? So that the second defender's body shape actually is being dictated by the first defender's action. Guy discovery is a big thing. You can ask players, how can we force a backward pass instead of a switch? So obviously, the bent run, that's the angle, the timing, the distance of the press, and your body shape of the press is very important. So you keep the coaching points here. Angle of the pressing matters. The compactness wins battles as a team of defenders. Communication is key. Who is stepping out? Who's the first defender, second defender, who's blocking passing lanes, etc. Recognize those pressing triggers. Receiving, attacker, body positioning. Is the ball going to their dominant foot or weak foot? Is it a bouncy ball? Is it in the air, etc. And obviously, this is a big one. You'll try to win possession if you see that there's an opportunity to challenge the ball and win the ball. Main principle, obviously, we're building pressure on the ball. And the sub principle, you try to prevent the switch by keeping the opponent on one side. And then the how, so build pressure, prevent the switch. You want to bring numbers around the ball. You want to keep the opponent locked and stopped from getting out of that area by outnumbering the opponent, overload, the angle of the press, the timing of the press. So those are the techniques that I just mentioned here in slide 5. Player actions. Intercepting, I mentioned that. So when you have a chance of winning the ball or deflecting the ball, you can step out. If not, it's better for you to stay in position and wait for the next pass. The pressing, mentioned the speed, angle, timing, distance, body shape. This is the distance where I mentioned the 2 yards specifically. You try to reduce space for the opponent or force the error, make the opponent look down, put their head down to look at the ball. Your body shape, obviously, you want to push the attackers away from your goal to the outside. So adjusting your shoulders and hips. There's the 45-degree shuffling, jogging, surfing. Some coaches refer to that as that. And here's the session. So 3 sessions a week. I usually start off with the technical session where it's even numbers, where we focus on the how. The second session is where I have a half field, so we can actually go into a game tactical situation specifically with primary, secondary players and look for those, go-to patterns maybe or go-to player actions to be successful. And then on Thursday, a couple of days before the game, I usually do my 3-team rotation, where we have 3 teams with bumpers. So here we go. So we had a warm-up. Opposed, unopposed. So it's basically a defender passing the ball and immediately press the ball. So right here, we're going to focus on the how. So we want to have that mindset, the intensity, the energy, the speed, and the angle of the press. And then they're basically going to go play 1v1 because the defender's going to follow the ball. So there's going to be switching on the point of attack, and then he's still the nearest defender. So they're going to follow the ball. So that's a too many goals, and I have this dotted line right here because I want to encourage the attacker to keep dribbling with the ball as close as they can, so we can actually give the defender the opportunity to get the blood flowing, get into the intensity that we need. So that's your warm up, a lot of repetitions, and then we go into your 2v2, 3v3, 4v4 type of setup where you trying to make sure that it gets implemented in a game where you have lots of stop and freeze and guide discovery coaches scenarios that we can um, do. So I'm just gonna let it play. Like I said, defender plays the ball, they lose the ball. It's a quick switching on the point of attack. At this point, I make sure that the attackers are still dominating because I want to just focus on the speed, angle, intensity, and the mindset and the technique on the how to press the ball. So I want to make sure that the attackers are more successful than defenders. After that, you got basically go into your small-sided game situation where you try to implement those key defensive techniques with your primary and secondary players, and you try to prevent a switch. So the speed, the angle, the timing, the distance, the body shape, all things that you can coach during that game. And that's about it. Let me go back here. So physical periodization, how long are you supposed to do this for? Obviously, your warm up, I would say 15 to 20 minutes plus your stretching and try to get ready. And then you go into your 2v2 to 3v3 type of situation. So your work duration is between 1 and 2 minutes. They recover approximately 1 minute. So let's say that's 2 to 3 minutes each set. You do that 6 times, so that's 18 with your recovery in between. So it's a 20-minute block, and you do that 1, 2, or 3 times depending on how much time you have. So apart from your warm-up, which could be just activation, dynamic activation, juggling to that opposed, unopposed situation. So this is basically an 80-minute session for that with lots of repetition. These are the criteria. I always include these that influence the intensity and the dynamic of training. Obviously, it's a 3v3, so it's even numbers, and you want to make sure that you try to give the attackers the incentive to actually switch the point of attack. But other than that, it's all about getting the intensity up for everybody on the field. Um, I think that's about it. Don't forget to follow me. I'm on Instagram and YouTube. It's the same username at the Scouting Corner. So feel free to reach out to me if you like this template presentation. I'll be happy to send it to you, and I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.